So what companions are the most useful for DPS classes? Roll it. Welcome back and thanks for being here. And let's get into the main topic. What companions are the best for DPS classes? And I'm not talking about your summoned companions only, but mostly about the companions with the best bonuses to slot into the offense, defense, or utility slot. To get your percentages up. There are different setups you can use and different combinations of all these companions I'm about to show you, depending of course on what stats you need and what you focus on as a DPS. I will show you my selection of the most useful companions for your characters and how much they cost more or less. But keep in mind these are PC prices and all over the place, to be honest with you. I will also at the end of the video share my thoughts on the prices and which ones I think are more useful out of the selection I will show you. So let's get started. One very good option for one of your companion slots is the Alchemist Experimenter. At Mythic, it will give you 3.75% crit chance and 3.75% combat advantage, which are two very good stats to focus on. The Alchemist is also very cheap compared to others out there. It's usually around 100 to 120,000 Astral Diamonds at Epic on the auction house. Another useful companion but extremely expensive is the Alphonse Nox. At Mythic, it gives 3.75 crit severity and 3.75 combat advantage. You can find this in the auction house at Legendary, but at 7 million Astral Diamonds. There are ways around using these type of companions that are expensive, but I'm only showing you what companions are useful. The choice of actually using them or buying them is totally on you. But like I said, I'll get to the prices at the end of the video and what I think about all that. Another nice option is the Assassin Drake. At Mythic, it will provide you with 3.75% accuracy and crit severity. It only costs 70,000 Astral Diamonds at Green in the auction house, but a whopping 1.2 million at Epic. Another possible option, even though power is easier to cap now, is the Deep Crow. It provides you with 7.5% power and costs 350,000 Astral Diamonds at Epic in the auction house. The reason I added this companion, even though power is easier to cap, is because not everybody can cap easily. Not everybody is endgame. Some players also sacrifice power in other areas and use this option instead. Not saying it's the best option, but definitely useful to some players. A kind of filler, if you will. Also, some players already have this and can't afford other companions at the moment, let alone afford the cost of upgrading them. So using the Deep Crow can help until you can afford a better balance to your stats. Next useful companion is the Barbarian Shaman. At Mythic, it will provide you with 3.75% combat advantage and power, and it costs 170,000 at Blue in the auction house. Power is easier to cap, but the combat advantage is always amazing. So if you have a slight power issue and definitely need combat advantage, this is a great choice, and not that expensive either. Another great companion, and one I use personally, is the Black Dragon Eon Stone. At Mythic, it will provide you with 7.5% crit chance, and depending on your gear, crit strike can be easier or harder to get. But at Epic, this does cost a hefty 4 million Astral Diamonds at the moment, sadly. Now, let's look at another decent companion, the Book Imp. The Book Imp at Mythic will give you 3.75% accuracy and combat advantage, which is very decent even though accuracy isn't one of the best options to cap, but it is still useful. This companion costs a staggering 5 million Astral Diamonds at Epic, which is crazy expensive. I did say I'm saving my thoughts for the prices at the end of the video, but to be honest, I'm finding it extremely hard to not say anything right now. Next companion is the Cambion Magus. The Cambion Magus at Mythic will grant you 3.75% accuracy and crit severity. Accuracy and crit severity on companions are not the highest in demand, but still can be useful depending on what you have and don't have already. And the Cambion Magus will cost you roughly 1 million Astral Diamonds at Green. Then we have the Alpha Compy, which to me is less impactful than it used to be, and is just like the Deep Crow at the moment. The Alpha Compy at Mythic will grant you 7.5% power and costs 2.1 million Astral Diamonds in the auction house. Next we have the Dancing Blade, which will grant you 3.75% crit sev and combat advantage, and only costs 150,000 Astral Diamonds at Green in the auction house. A very affordable and useful companion choice. Next we have Zerial. Zerial at Mythic will grant you 3.75 crit severity and crit chance, which are good stats to have, but the cost is beyond ridiculous. 23 million at Epic in the auction house. Are you serious? Next, we have the Fawn of Shialia, which will grant you at Mythic 3.75% crit chance and power, which can be a very useful filler if you have no other way to cap your power or these stats in general, and it only costs 9,000 Astral Diamonds at Green, which is dirt cheap. Then there's the Dog Companion, which grants you 3.75% of power and crit severity, and is very, very cheap. I think it's the cheapest companion I've seen so far. 900 Astral Diamonds in the auction house. So yeah, that's a pretty good companion considering its price, and if you don't have anything better to use. Next good companion to have is the Fey Panther. The Fey Panther at Epic will grant you 3.75 accuracy and combat advantage, but it's also extremely expensive at 7.7 million at Blue. Another possible option is the Fire Archon. At Epic, the Fire Archon has a 10% chance while you're using at wills to increase your combat advantage by 7.5% for 10 seconds. If you already have it, it might be a good option to get close to your caps on CA. It costs around 600,000 Astral Diamonds at Green in the auction house. Another useful companion for capping stats for Dps'ers is the Flame Sprite. At Mythic, it will grant you 3.75% crit chance and accuracy, and at Green, it will only cost you 30,000 Astral Diamonds in the auction house. Then we have the Ghost Companion. The Ghost at Mythic will grant you 3.75% power and crit chance, and it will cost you roughly 670,000 Astral Diamonds at Blue in the auction house. Another good one and possible option is the Lightfoot Thief. At Mythic, it will grant you 3.75% crit sev and crit chance, and costs 530,000 Astral Diamonds at Blue in the auction house. The next companion is the Hawk. The Hawk at Mythic will grant you 3.75% crit sev and crit chance, exactly like the Lightfoot Thief, but will cost you much less at 170,000 Astral Diamonds at Green in the auction house. Then we have the Kenku Archer. At Mythic, it will grant you 3.75% power and crit severity, which at Green will cost you 100,000 Astral Diamonds, and at Epic 600,000 in the auction house. The next companion in our useful companion list is the Mercenary. At Mythic, it will grant you 3.75% power and 3.75% combat advantage, and at Green, it will roughly cost you around 167,000 Astral Diamonds. Next companion is the Mystagogue. The Mystagogue will grant you 3.75% crit sev and combat advantage, but is quite expensive at 2.9 million at Green. Next companion is the Armored Orc Wolf. The Armored Orc Wolf will grant you 3.75% accuracy and crit chance, and it will only cost you around 37,000 Astral Diamonds at Green in the auction house. Then we have the Face Spider, which at Mythic will grant you 3.75% crit chance and combat advantage, and at Green it will cost you a hefty penny in the auction house at 2.5 million. There's also a less used option, but a very good one, especially for groups who tend to always run together, and that will be the Tamed Velociraptor. The Tamed Velociraptor will grant you 3.75% power that can stack up to 5 times. So for every extra player in your group using it, you will get an extra 3.75% power, which is a lot of power depending on how many people you have. That will cost you around 800,000 Astral Diamonds at Epic, but it's not one of the best options. Next is the Red Slad, which at Mythic grants you 3.75% accuracy and crit severity, and it will cost you around 900,000 Astral Diamonds at Blue in the auction house. Then we have one of the most useful companions so far when it comes to capping combat advantage, and that's the Staldorf. The Staldorf at Mythic will grant you 7.5% combat advantage and only costs 57,000 Astral Diamonds at Green. It is literally the definition of a dirt cheap companion, but insanely powerful and useful. Next, we have the Razorwood. At Mythic, you are granted 3.75% accuracy and crit severity, and it costs roughly 670,000 Astral Diamonds at Epic in the auction house. Next is the Wild Hunt Rider. At Mythic, it has a 10% chance on encounter use to increase your combat advantage by 11.25% for 10 seconds, and this does proc more than you actually realize. It costs 700,000 Astral Diamonds at Green in the auction house. Next up is the Wolf. The Wolf at Mythic will grant you 7.5% crit severity and costs 450,000 Astral Diamonds at Epic in the auction house. It's not one of the best choices out there, but it is a good one if you're missing crit severity. Now let's move on to one of the most useful companions when it comes to single target DPS, the Batiri. The Batiri at Mythic will grant you 11.25% damage versus bosses, and is pretty cheap at the moment at 380,000 Astral Diamonds at Green in the auction house. Every companion I just mentioned above are the ones that I think are useful for DPS classes. And when I say useful, I mean for the defensive, offensive, and utility slots, and depending on your goals, your level, and what you can afford. That is why I just gave you guys multiple options. For summon companions, you can pick anything really, but there are some companions that are better than others, like the Mercenary, the Black Death Scorpion, the Zuna, the Air Archon, the Owlbear, the Black Ice Prospector, the Quickling, but they don't make a really huge difference. And this video is just about the utility, defense, and offense slots anyways. Now, which ones do I think are the most useful? The ones that are more useful to me are the ones that have combat advantage and crit chance mostly. And then after that, it's crit severity, accuracy, and power. The reason I have this order is due to how hard they are to cap or how easy some are to cap, and some on how less of an impact they make out of all the stats. So for example, power is huge impact, but the easiest to cap. So companions with power are not as useful as others, but that doesn't mean they are not useful at all. It depends on what companions you already have, your level as a player, and your gear. I'm not expecting everybody to be rich like me to be able to afford whatever is out there. So players who have difficulty capping power might find these useful. Remember, power might be easy, but it is the most important stat to cap of all of them. For me, crit severity is the second easiest to cap, so that's why I don't prefer companions with crit severity. But just like with power, it depends on what each player is lacking and what they own companion-wise, and of course the overall goals. The most important companions I find to be the ones that have combat advantage and crit chance, because they are harder to cap than the other two, which is power and crit severity. And the least important is accuracy of the 5 stats. That doesn't mean you can't have accuracy, just that it's less impactful than the other 4 offensive stats. So in my opinion, and especially for endgame, the Black Dragon Ironstone with 7.5% crit chance, the Alchemist Experimenter with 3.75% crit chance and combat advantage, the Phase Spider with 3.75% combat advantage and crit chance, the Staldorf with 7.5% combat advantage, the Wild Hunt Rider with a 10% chance on encounter use to gain 11.25% combat advantage, and the Batir with the 11.25% more damage versus bosses are the best companions out of all of them. But that's just my opinion. And there's possibly 1 or 2 out there that I forgot. But keep in mind, these are the companions I'm showing for DPS classes. So every companion I mentioned in this video are the best companions to have for DPS classes to cap your stats with. But there are various ways you can cap your stats. There are also various combinations you can use due to your item level, the gear you own, resources you might have at your leisure, the way you like playing your tune, etc. So if you are watching this video and have any of these companions, then lucky you. My advice? First, use the ones you already have. And if something is missing that you need, then go and buy that something. Don't go buying before you set up what you already have so you can see where you stand at the moment. Trust me, it will feel really bad if you spend 2 million, for example, on one of these companions and you end up not needing it. This isn't a guide to tell you what to buy, but on what is useful for DPS classes. What you buy is on you. And there might even be a few more companions that I left out that I could have added, but I found them to be less important. As far as some of the prices of these companions, like the 5 million, the 23 million, the 7 million, let me put it this way. You will most likely have a combination of cheaper and more expensive companions. As you see my companion set up right here, the Black Dragon Ironstone is expensive at 4 million. The Phase Spider is at 2.5 million, and the others are cheaper. The Alchemist is 120k, the Dancing Blade is 150, and the Wild Hunt Rider is 700k. So no matter how you look at it, you will spend Astral Diamonds. And even a cheap companion at 100,000 Astral Diamonds, if you have it at green, will cost you a few million to even upgrade. So it's better to use cheaper companions when you can. But sometimes there's just no way around it. And some of the prices of these companions are absolutely ridiculous. For example, the Zerial at 23 million Astral Diamonds. Man, you better go check yourself before you wreck yourself.
Yes. Jiggity check myself before I rickety wreck myself. Yeah.
Nobody's buying that. Well, and some of the prices of these companions are absolutely ridiculous. Anyways, I hope this guide onto what companions are actually useful for capping your stats as a DPS class helped you out a bit. And there's more to come. So don't forget to like and subscribe. Galactic here. Peace out. Stay safe.